Hey free to play gang, welcome back to another video, or if you're new to my channel, well, this channel is new after all. Anyway, I want to discuss something today which is pertaining to a pretty big hoo-ha that has riddled Reddit a little bit speechless with regards to how Valiant Force is handling their reroll system. So I am going to be talking a little bit about the reroll, or rather the lack thereof. So the thing is, for this game, it's been made very clear that the developers have no intention whatsoever of letting players to reroll, because they have actually gone ahead to IP ban some players. Well, this is according to one Reddit post at least. So they have gone ahead to IP ban some of the players who are using spam accounts or spam Gmail accounts just to create more accounts so that they can re-roll in this game. So whether or not I'm on the side of people re-rolling or on the side of people choosing not to re-roll, frankly, it doesn't even concern me at all. You guys do what you want, right? I mean, you play the game the way you want to play, so not everyone enjoys the game the same way. Now with that said, what I can say is, just from my experience of playing this game thus far, and I know I'm level 6, but you know what, don't trust the level system here, okay? It takes forever to level up. So based on my experience in this game thus far, and in the closed beta as well, my understanding of the game is this. As for right now, there is really no reliable tier list out there. So in terms of what you should reroll for, at least for the C players, there is really no one list that makes a lot of sense, that is very reliable right now. And there are many reasons why that's the case, but I think the main reason for me is that I think there are main two reasons, right? So the first reason is if you go to squads, right? So if you actually watched one of my previous videos, you understand a big factor of this game is going to be something that I talk about a lot, which is going to be the aura system that the game has. So I feel like this aura system is what makes and breaks the game as well. It is everything about the game. So this aura system, whatever, all these links that you're seeing here, this is exactly what makes your team strong or not. And it's not particularly true that one single character is going to make your account strong. Because the thing is, you may have certain characters, right? So like for example, for me, I do have certain other SSRs that I'm not using at all. And the reason why I'm not using SSR is because it just does not fit my requirements. So for example, where's my Jenny? Okay, so Jenny is over here. So the reason why I'm not using her is because her aura bearings, which is all these arrows here, they don't match any of the other characters that I'm using, which means it is not necessarily that possible for you to just chuck a whole bunch of SSR characters together and make your team powerful. It is not really the case. So for this game, it is more important that tier lists cover team tier lists rather than individual tier lists, individual character tier lists, because that does not make sense at all. So a lot of these characters in this game, right, the only way that they can strive is by pairing them up with other characters that are probably even in lower rarities, right? So for example, either SR or even R rarities as well. So for example, if I were to use Janet, there is no way that I can fit her in here, right? Even though she's really good. So for example, let's take a look at sorry, not Janet, Jenny. So for example, let's take a look at Jenny, right? So the reason why she's so good is because her trigger effect on her aura, which means that whenever this unit attacks, there is a 72% chance of triggering her aura effect that triggers other adjacent allies to do something, right? So in this case, it's going to be to land a debuff. So if you were adjacent, or let's say if you were positioned, at least in this formation, adjacent to another character, like let's say she was adjacent to Sky, right? Because Sky is indeed, she does have this aura effect where there is a 53% chance when this unit inflicts a debuff, which can be triggered by Jenny's passive effect here, or rather her aura effect. Yeah, so something like that, that might make sense. But the thing is, it really depends on the kind of characters that you have and not so much of that one character that you're trying to reroll for. So even if you reroll for a really good character, you might not even be able to fit that character into any of the teams that you're using. So please try to understand that it doesn't really make a whole ton of sense in this game for you to reroll. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm kind of going to repeat myself a little bit. So what's important is to have all these chain effects, okay? So all these aura bearings, they need to match, and that's like kind of like the priority. It's not so much about having the SSRs. So what might define a good character, might, okay, and I say might, is that they have more triggers per round. So for example, this character, Asteria, she has a chance of triggering this effect twice per round, which means that she has a potential to heal a unit twice each time you have your turn, right? And what this means is that if you pair her alongside Ultima, for example, right, Ultima also has 2 triggers per round, which means that whenever she gets healed up to 2 times in a single round, she would then trigger 2 of your allies to attack, right? Up to, or maybe up to 3 allies in fact. So in my case here, both my archers here, they can actually attack twice, 2 more additional turns because of this linkage effect here. Whereas there are some other characters and some other SSR characters as well who only has 1 single trigger each of their turn, which might be a problem. So that's the thing about tier lists right now, is that you cannot really trust, you know, like for example this, it only triggers 1 time per turn, which is like, this is not very good in my opinion, because even though you have a 72% chance of triggering whenever you attack, you can only trigger it at most once, which is quite bad. So that's gonna be like the first reason, and I know I dragged it on for a little bit longer. Now the second reason is that not all the characters, even though their kit looks good, right? Even though some of the tier lists might say that, oh, their kit looks so good for this team, it does a lot of damage, blah blah blah. One of the best examples is probably gonna be Madeline. So let's take a look at what Madeline can do. So here we have her. So her kit is super freaking strong. Like her kit is just so good. So if we take a look at what she can do, I have currently unlocked her additional skill. So what she does is, this skill actually does a tremendous amount of damage, Mystic Missiles, right? And the thing is, she has another active skill that resets all her skill cooldowns, which means she can then use this skill again on her next turn, which is insane. This character is actually really broken in terms of her skill set, but if we take a look at her aura bearing and her aura itself, this is what it looks like. So this is her aura, right? And you can trigger this twice per turn because of just, you know, the way she's designed. But the thing is, she can only trigger her aura whenever she uses an active skill. It's not whenever she attacks, which means that there will be no external links into her. There is no way that someone can trigger her to use her skill off her turn, which means she needs to be able to use her skill in order for her aura to take effect. So you can imagine what would happen when you're on cooldown. She would have no aura triggering whatsoever. So in that sense, she's a lot less flexible than some of the other characters. Like for example, Laura. I think Laura is one of the... Sorry, Lola. Lola is one of the... Oh my god, that's a typical Chinese issue, right? So Lola is one of the better characters in this game, in my opinion, and she's an SR character. And the reason why she's so good is that she just synergizes so well with another one of your starting characters called Elise. She's one of those characters that you're gonna get at the start. So both of these characters are free, by the way. So if you take a look at Lola, her effect here is just so freaking good. It triggers twice per turn, which means that she can actually land additional attacks to trigger more attack buffs for the rest of your team. And by having other characters adjacent to her that can trigger multiple times per turn, this is how you can trigger a lot of additional combo chains. So only characters that have multiple trigger chances can actually truly excel in this game, in my opinion, or at least based on whatever that I'm seeing right now. So Elise, this is one of the new characters. This is one of the first few characters that you're gonna get in the game. She's one of the protagonists as well. Really strong stuff. Really good synergy with Lola over here. As you can see, there is this aura synergy over here that is just so freaking good. So in this game, right, it's not so important that you reroll. It's more important that you have a plethora of characters to choose from. A plethora of characters that have different kinds of aura bearings, different kinds of auras, and from my experience thus far, probably characters that focus a little bit more on auras like, you know, landing attacks or being healed. I think, or like getting a buff, for example. I think these are very well-rounded and you can actually build a lot of different teams around them because there is just a lot of characters that buff. There's a lot of characters that trigger your other characters to land attacks. There's a lot of characters that, you know, inflicts healing, for example, like your typical healers. Or in my case, right, I have both a healing from Ultima and I also have a healing from Estira as part of her aura effect here. So this is my final verdict on in terms of like rerolling in this game thus far. It really doesn't make a lot of sense because, like I said, right, that one character that you're trying to pull for, it really will not change anything for your lineup. In fact, you might not even find that there is room for her to be put in this team, for example. So with that said, I hope this clarifies a little bit more about what everyone's like very angry about. Like there's this really huge drama going around about Valiant Force being a bit stingy with their reroll process. And I do understand that when the global launch actually happens and when people are able to really formularize proper tier lists or like maybe proper team tier lists, which I think is more relatable to this game, then I think, okay, we might want to reconsider everything about like the reroll system and all that. But just for now, just take my word for it, enjoy the game for what it has to offer, and you will find that there is a huge steep learning curve in this game and that one single character or maybe two characters, they are not going to change a lot for your team. Anyway, with that said, this is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other comments, leave it down in the comment section below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Anyway, this has been Dairy Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.